Today's Velshi Band Book Club feature centers on a painting, a portrait. The work of art, painted by Basil Hallward, captures his subject's youthful beauty perfectly, almost magically, and the subject's name, Dorian Gray. Through Basil, Gray meets the aristocratic Lord Henry Wotton, who believes that life is simply about pursuing pleasure and beauty. Influenced by Wotton, Gray makes a deal that will change his life forever. Quote, "How sad it is," murmured Dorian Gray, with his eyes still fixed upon his own portrait. "How sad it is. I shall grow old and horrible and dreadful, but this picture will remain always young. It will never be older than this particular day of June. If it were only the other way, if it were only I who was to be always young and the picture that was to grow old. For that I would give everything. Yes, there is nothing in the whole world I would not give. I would give my soul for that," end quote. And so begins today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, a profoundly significant classic that still reverberates through Western culture and English literature, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Initially published as a famously redacted novella for Lippincott's Monthly Magazine in June of 1890, The Picture of Dorian Gray explores persuasion and corruption, sexual identity and desire, mortality, and societal obsession with youth and beauty. Now, if you haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray or any of Oscar Wilde, please do. For me to just describe Wilde's masterful writing style, his grasp of rhythmic and poetic language, his use of symbolic detail, his wit and his humor, and his use of Gothic elements feels reductive. As Wilde writes, quote, "There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all." Of course, Wilde's legacy is intrinsically linked to The Picture of Dorian Gray in many ways. I'm going to give you just three of them. The first one is obvious. The Picture of Dorian Gray is arguably Wilde's magnum opus. The second is confessional. In an 1894 letter to a friend, Wilde wrote, quote, "Basil Hallward is all that I think I am. Lord Henry is what the world thinks me. And Dorian Gray is what I would like to be," end quote. And the third is biographical. In 1895, the novel was used as evidence contributing to the eventual conviction of Wilde for so-called gross indecency with certain male persons, when Wilde's relationship with Lord Alfred Bosie Douglas drew public scrutiny. Bosie's father attempted to damage Wilde's reputation, calling him a sodomite. Wilde sued Bosie's father for libel and lost, unable to prove the allegations were false because, of course, they weren't. Soon after, Wilde was prosecuted and sentenced to 2 years of hard labor. Puts a whole new spin on the book banning thing. There's a 2006 biography of Wilde called The Secret Life of Oscar Wilde by Neil McKenna, which begins like this, quote, "Oscar Wilde lived more lives than one, and no single biography can ever encompass his rich and extraordinary life and achievements." And certainly no single meeting of the Velshi Band Book Club can do so either. But I will say this, back then, Wilde was an Irish author, a poet, a playwright, a dramatist, a socialite. Now he's a hero of the LGBTQ+ community and one of the most celebrated and influential writers of all time. And that influence is enduring. In the past year alone, to name just two, we've seen Sarah Snook's award-winning one-woman stage adaptation of the novel and the Velshi Band Book Club author Abdi Nazemian's brand new young adult novel, Exquisite Things, which is laden with Dorian Gray references. Indeed, Nazemian's new novel opens with a quote from The Picture of Dorian Gray, quote, "Behind every exquisite thing that existed, there was something tragic." Today's meeting of the Velshi Band Book Club is officially in session, and today we're opening a true classic, a Gothic work of fiction that has been studied and discussed for well over a century, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Joining us to discuss Dorian Gray is a veteran member. Clearly, we couldn't get Oscar Wilde, but the best living alternative is Abdi Nazemian, a screenwriter, producer, and author of numerous books, including Like a Love Story, the brand new and his brand new must-read, Exquisite Things. Abdi, great to see you again. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're here with a friend. Who's this?
This is Disco.
Oh, hi, Disco.
Big Oscar Wilde fan.
I love it. All right, well, Disco and Abdi, we could talk about Oscar Wilde. One of the things about you just wrote about Oscar Wilde and his life by way of your newest book, Exquisite Things, out just a month ago. In that book, you write, Wilde slept with young men, then disposed of them. He insisted on suing for libel despite knowing the accusations against him were true. His trial created assumptions about gay men that last to this day. Sexual compulsion, criminality. He doesn't deserve to be a symbol for our community, but perhaps Wilde isn't the problem and never was. The problem is turning people into symbols in the first place. Tell me about this.
Well, I think when we talk about a figure like Oscar Wilde as a martyr of queer history, we kind of flatten what really happened, which was that he was a deeply flawed individual. And to me, that really speaks to something we have to learn from the Oscar Wilde story, which is that ideas and communities matter more than people. And when we engage in cults of personality and hero worship, as we are seeing politically right now, we sometimes lose sight of the values that we claim to fight for because we are so adamant about protecting the person that we worship. And so really, Oscar Wilde is one of my favorite authors. I love him, but I also think there's a lot to learn from his mistakes.
Fair enough. So, and this is an important distinction when we're talking about books and book banning, because books can be banned because of the ideas. They can be banned because of the specific words. They might be banned because of the author, their ideas, or whatever it is about them. Ultimately, and tell me if you agree with this, The Picture of Dorian Gray is thought of as a seminal work of queer literature. However, a lot of that text was self-censored, removed by Oscar Wilde's editor, and yet what was remaining was still deemed and derided as inappropriate. Tell me where you put The Picture of Dorian Gray in the canon of queer literature.
I think it's one of the most important books. I read it when I was very, very young, probably around 10 or 11 years old. And I know that that book transmitted a gay sensibility to me that I didn't understand yet fully. And as I came to know more about how the book was censored and banned and then used in Oscar Wilde's trials. So for anyone who doesn't know, Oscar Wilde was convicted of gross indecency. And The Picture of Dorian Gray, the text itself, was used as evidence to prosecute him. And this is happening right now. This is happening with rap music in courts. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, whose art is being criminalized and why? Why is it frightening to people that queer art or Black art exists? And so I think both as a text, but also as a historical document that led to the conviction of one of the great authors, it's very instructive.
And yet, not that different today. I mean, we're talking about the 1890s, and we still have books that are banned for literally exact. And by the way, we can go back 500 years. Like the reasons for book banning have not evolved nor changed.
Correct. And The Picture of Dorian Gray was banned then. I mean, it was censored. W.H. Smith refused to carry it. It's also banned now. It's banned in Iowa, where there's a version of a Don't Say Gay law, and it's banned alongside other classics. And often, as happens with book bans now, it's based on excerpts that are taken completely out of context. And so we lose the context. And I think another thing as a real history nerd that is interesting to me is Oscar Wilde's trial and the way that book was used to convict him led to a chilling effect on other art coming out post-Oscar Wilde. And I'm very interested. We're in a moment right now where book bans are at an all-time high. Is it going to have a chilling effect on artists being able to express themselves honestly? Because I think a lot of writers like myself are afraid. We're afraid of the threats. We're afraid because we need to make a living. And I think we have to learn from history and from what happened post-Wilde and not back down and keep telling our stories as honestly as possible.
Right, because, you know, I often think, isn't having a banned or challenged book good for you? And authors all tell me they don't want their books banned and pulled out of libraries and pulled away from children. They want to write their books for people to read it. They don't wish for the fame of being banned.
Absolutely. Look, book bans, it has been proven, lead to a huge decline in sale. It also leads to incredible heartbreak for the authors who are putting themselves on the line. We write personal books because we want to tell our own stories and help young readers, mostly, who may be feeling what we felt, the shame we felt when we were young. And so I very much believe in standing up for our values and not cowering in fear. But also another thing that really inspires me about The Picture of Dorian Gray is here it is. We're still talking about it all these years later, over a century. They tried to ban that book. They tried to silence it, and they couldn't. And in Exquisite Things, my new novel, it's about two immortal boys who are searching for a time where their love isn't a crime. And the thing that makes them immortal is the burning of the original manuscript of The Picture of Dorian Gray by a homophobic father. And that is meant to symbolize that you may try to burn and ban our books in the short term, but in the long term, the art will survive. And so it's about resilience. This is a book, and Wilde is a figure that shows us that we are resilient and our communities will survive the efforts to silence us.
Abdi, great to see you again. Thank you and congratulations on the new book. Abdi Nazemian is a screenwriter and the author of Like a Love Story and the brand new must-read Exquisite Things.